Morning, everybody. Going to be doing some recording this morning. It's been a while since I've actually done one of these, so I'm looking forward to it. It's a chilly morning, man. Chilly morning. It's at the point that I almost have to close the windows of my place in this wonderful Toronto morning. Anyways, let me get my stuff prepped up here. I guess there's a lot of new people to the channel since I last did these, so I'll kind of let you know what's going on. So I have a series on the channel called MidsWatch. It's based on when I used to work at the naval radio station, and we would have a 1 and 2 watchkeeper. So it's like 12 hours on, 12 hours off, 12-hour break. And then you like rotate 2 days, 2 nights, and then you get 6 days off. It's a wonderful and like kind of stressful experience. Is the volume low? I don't think it is. Let me check. No, it shouldn't be low. I think that's on your end. In fact, on this end, any louder and I start clipping. There, that's about as loud as it gets. And you see it starts to clip a lot. Huh. Oh, well, whatever. It's fixed now. Yeah, so MidsWatch at the Naval Radio Station. And the idea is I got... Thank you, sir. I used to grab a degree when I was there because a lot of guys just wasted their time drinking. And so I liked it because I used to have a bunch of like indie... like very lo-fi, down-tempo trance and ambient and stuff was always up playing on that channel. It was a bunch of indie artists. And so I liked the vibe. And I thought, why not provide that vibe while dealing with the very important and dry material from the Red Pill? And this is like, hey, Mish, this is not, for anybody new, this is not your standard Red Pill stuff. This isn't, yelling at chicks being hoes. This isn't asking about hypotheticals, about hypergamy, or any of that crap. This is like probably from 7 years ago. These are real people running through their real maps, male action plans, actually red pilling themselves, going through the material, practicing in their lives, and coming up with, and this is the part where they run into stumbling blocks, right? And then we kind of swap some notes amongst each other. It's based on most of the posts from one of the guys who's been around, I think, a little bit longer than me, but he's since gone. His name was Jack Ten of Hearts. Very verbose marketing. He's kind of like an Ian Ironwood guy. He was marketing, psychology, that side of things professionally, and then personally came here, Rolo, saving marriage. You get the deal like that. And we're swapping notes back and forth amongst each other. It's part of a series. I think we're 60-some episodes in. It's going to be about 84 episodes by the time it's done. And I would argue... like, I want these ones to be the kind of ones you could just put on a playlist and listen to all day while you're doing your thing. And they're nice, they're easy on the ears, and they're useful. And I love the parts where guys, like, listen to them, and then they finally experience something like that in their life, and then they come back. It's like, oh, shit. Like, I've yet to do one of these videos where somebody's like, dude, are you in my living room right now? So it's kind of fun. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing at least 4 of these recordings, and then we're going to do a raid. Head over to... second channel where we're gonna play on some electronic Legos and unwind after talking about guys red pilling themselves, because it's sometimes a bit more of an intense topic. So if you have a coffee, grab yourself a coffee. Hey, salam alaikum, Mish. It's good to see you. All right, got mine coming. Don't forget, merch is always at the store.ryanstone.com. Just dropped brand new merch, by the way, so it's pretty exciting. The Red Morning, the podcast stuff. I'm loving those shirts. It's at the point now that I have to stop wearing my own clothes and just start wearing merch clothes all day. I'm actually that happy about it. Drip coffee. You know what? No judgment. No judgment. Anyways, there's going to be 4 episodes, and if I have time and I have my voice left, I might do a 5th. The first one is a guy asking if having frame means he gets to be treated like shit. And it's going to go over some concepts like admiration, insecurity, and the value differences between people. Next one's going to be a guy trying to find out, is his wife giving him shit tests? Is his wife giving him comfort tests? Or is she just a crazy bitch? And so there's going to be the idea of Manuel Smith's When I Sin, I Feel Guilty, the idea that you have to become your own judge, or as Rollo puts it, your mental point of origin, and why that's important. How a lot of men are basically asking their wives to gaslight them, like, please lie to me. And then some little back and forth between the idea of having an objective standard or using your wife or women in general as like a feedback mechanism, like, or like using the women to like, okay, am I making progress here or not? I'll get into it there. Oh no, wait, that's not that one. Or no, that's that one, but the wrong field report. The field report is actually about a main event. So why did I get that wrong? All right, one sec. Anyways, the next one's going to be a main event then. And the main event one is awesome. It's actually from one of like the older guys that was in the space. He was in his 60s. And it's just like, I like it. It's a great example. There's very few good examples of a main event. I'll actually walk through what that is too. If you're new to the channel, you probably don't know what that concept is. It's really like where everything starts to click into place. And then, okay, so let me see. Shit test, comfort test, crazy bitch, big events, or main events, and then getting handle on things in an LTR. That one's good too, because that's going to be guys who are just learning the idea of like leading the household. Everybody's like, got to be a leader, you got to do this. And just between that and boundary enforcement, it's kind of nice. Ah, there she is. And then the last one is one of the guys who's been around. He was like the same, 10-year as me or whatever like that. And he was talking about over dreading his wife and the idea of cheating and how that comes in. So it's going to be pretty good. So I guess, and then, so if you don't know, when I do these things, so it's just a recording. So I'm recording the thing on the thing. So I'm not really going to deal with the chat. And then in between, we kind of chit chat a little bit. I get to the next one. So I'm going to start on the first one now. All right. Having said, this one's long. I might skip a few things in it. Oh, that's why. It's because that's not Jack. That's somebody else. There she is. All right. See you guys in a minute. Just passing these fitness tests means I have to be treated like crap? Morning, everybody, or evening, I guess. If you're seeing this one when it first comes out, it's about midnight. It's kind of a big deal. I know it's bad for the algorithm, but what the hey? So I'm going to need you to help me out. Like, subscribe, you know the deal. And just watch and enjoy yourself. This is going to be a field report. If you guys haven't been aware of what a field report is, it's kind of a guy tries something in his marriage to fix a certain problem. And then he writes down what he did. He observes, he orients his decisions to a better decision. He makes a decision, and then he acts on it and then reflects on it. This is the reflection. And then you pass this amongst other guys, because most guys running into fairly similar situations. And so guys who haven't done it can learn from this guy, and those who have done it swap notes with him. And between the group of them, they eventually come up with better ways to live happier lives, have happier families, or, send the 304 to the streets. But yeah. Anyways, this field report is an old 7 years ago one from a guy named Spexer. Passing shit tests means being treated like shit. And a shit test is essentially if a girl has feelings of attraction, it's mostly subliminal or like limbic. So what they do is they tend to have bratty external behavior to test it, to see if it's like a real signal of desire or just, she happens to be mistaken. And generally speaking, as the guy, if you let the girl's test phase you, it kind of reduces attraction. It's one of those things in the marriage, especially when guys start thinking about blank slate equalism and like men and women are interchangeable and equal. They think about women like they think about men, and it doesn't work that way. And so this is one of those ways where, everybody's like, well, why shouldn't people be this? Like, no. This is why it doesn't work. So he starts with, does this mean I have to be treated like crap? This is the question I've been asking myself. After 9 months being red-pilled, I've learned to recognize the little digs and challenges as an opportunity to prove myself worthy. But hell, I'm growing tired, and they're making me not want to be with her. So I said something twice now over the last week, and maybe this means I failed these tests. I would love some feedback. First off was a shit test she threw my way when you had a few other couples over and she did it in front of them. One of the women challenged what I was saying as BS, and then I agreed and amplified her and played up how I should never be doubted. My wife snickered some dig about never doubting that I'll always think that I'm great or something like that. And, sorry to ramble. But the point is, it was a non-sexual dig at my expense. I played it off and showed them my website on my phone, proving that I was right, and boasted even more. Hey, I'm gonna pause here. Do you guys kind of see where this one's already going? Like, this guy thinks, like, I got it, man. I'm alpha. I've got this stuff. And then he's having an argument with a girl, and then one of them pokes fun at him. And so he starts pulling up websites like a Redditor would. And then he's wondering, like, I don't get why everybody treats me like crap. Like, don't they know I'm right? But, I mean, whatever. Here to there. So I told her the next day I was bothered by how I handled her attitude at the party. And I told her I'm not going to tolerate being made fun of or put down in front of others. But when she said it, I didn't want to insult her back or put her in her place, out of respect. I didn't want to make her lose face. She started to argue semantics and led into a larger conversation about how I expect the women in my life to build me up, not tear me down, especially in front of others. And in the past, she's done this a bunch, so it's kind of like a reoccurring theme in the marriage. So she said that you talk yourself up so much that somebody needs to bring you down to earth. And maybe I've been doing a much agree and amplify. If I recall, I got up and got busy with the project, being distant for most of the day. She made some exaggerated compliments at first, in front of the kids, making a joke out of it. Heck, I think she's red-pilling me more than I'm red-pilling her, which, again, this guy's, like, there's so much to talk about on this one. And the next incident was Sunday. Just got home after a 2-day men's retreat and came in very upbeat and affectionate. She shrugged off the kisses and was pretty negative. And then when she and him were catching up, her responses totally popped the balloon of positivity, and I called her on it. I can't remember the exact details, but it was something like, I did something great. And she's like, yeah, not likely, type stuff. And so I told her, you wanted examples from our last talk? Here you go. Comments like that from you do nothing for me, but make me want to be elsewhere. And her response was something along the lines of, I can't believe you're being so sensitive. Jeez. Which makes me think that I failed the shit test. I couldn't handle her testing me. But on the other side of the coin, I'm thinking this was a good choice because I'm letting her know what behavior I'll tolerate and what behavior I won't. What do you guys think? I'm going to get into what we talked about then, but a couple personal thoughts first, and then we'll get into the Jack side of things. There is some very obvious takeaways for you guys. One, when you're having a fight, there is this technique that you'll learn in the Red Pill very early on. I want to say it's Manuel Smith's, but I could be mistaken. And I just refer to it as having the memory of a goldfish. He calls them quick resets. The idea is, if you're having a fight about some emotional thing and emotions are going high and whatever, the next day, if your wife's like, hey, I want to talk about that fight last night, or you feel the need to go bring it up last night to make sure you were heard, shut up. Shut up. Look, most of our fights are emotional nonsense. And the only purpose to relive that same emotional nonsense is because you want to start another fight. The fight's over. The guy talked about his feelings. She laughed at that. He told her it was offensive. She told him to calm down. They went to bed. He got up and he started it again. And what are you expecting at this point? My wife thinks I'm too sensitive. I've brought this up 7 times over the last 6 days. It's like she's not wrong. At this point, it's almost like I can feel it through the screen because I know what I'm doing, but I can feel her begging him to stop being a bitch. Just come on, man. I need you to do this. Secondly, he's playing the cocky funny route, talking about how great he is, how awesome he is. I'm sure you guys have seen another red pilled content creator on here, MLD John, Modern Life Dating. He does that all the time. I'm awesome. Don't worry about it. I got money. I'm famous. I'm whatever. And the thing about that is if you're going to play the cocky funny asshole at the dinner party, girls are going to poke fun at you because A, they love the kayfabe. This is like wrestling. They're watching a Ric Flair promo. And what do you do when you watch Ric Flair talking about styling and profiling? You call him an asshole. And then he just laughs it off and continues doubling down. That's the game. You know when Rolo talks about they just want a guy to get it? Yeah, you acting cocky in a social setting, being fun, the girls chipping away at you, and you laughing that off is how the game is played. It's not confidence if a snide remark can pull you out of it. Hence, shit test. They're shitting all over your happiness to see if it's really happiness or not. And if it is, they tend to get attracted to that stuff. So, and then what was the other part I wanted to bring up here? Where'd it go? Oh, yeah, the 2-day men's retreat. The fuck is that? I was looking at that and I was like, I wondered at the time. I wanted to push on it, but I'm like, it's not really the important detail. But so you go somewhere where some guru tells you, dude, you're like testicular cancer meetings from fucking Fight Club, right? You can cry now, Cornelius. Like, you're a man. You're a strong man. Here's some peyote. Here's a campfire. Let's shoot paintball guns in the desert or whatever they're doing. And then you go home and you feel like $1 million. You're like, yes, I am awesome. And then the girl's like, no, you're not. And he's like, shut up. I am awesome. Like, it's so easy to crumple this stuff. Now, I don't know how much his men's retreat cost him, but every single one of those dollars was just a waste of time. It's like, and I'm going to steal a line from one of my favorite bloggers, The Last Psychiatrist, where he talks about Guinness being like a beta male drink, which, long story short, he has this quote where he's like, the best of men, except for real men. For those men, there's Guinness. And he's like, so what kind of men is this made to appeal for? And he goes, it's beta males. It's the kind of guy that wants to do something to show he's a man, except for without doing anything. He just wants to feel it. And it just kind of made me laugh when I looked at this one. And that's the impression I got from this. This guy has a serious insecurity issue. And because of that, every time he tries to pretend like he's alpha, it crumbles so quickly. And every time that happens, he loses a little bit of respect or a little bit of adulation from his family. Which sucks because that's probably interfering with his sex life. Anyway, so Jack Ten of Hearts, prolific red pill meteorologist, has this quote. He starts it off like, hamsterese, you are weak and ineffectual, wearing the dressings of a stronger man, and I need to make you think, I need you to make sure that you know that you think that. Also, you failed the test. And he's like, this is 99% of this guy's problem. His wife's opinion of his sexual market value or his value is not aligned with his. He thinks he's greater than he is. She does not, hence the friction. In this case, it stems from empty intellect. Now, the original poster, considers himself smart and knowledgeable about many things. But if Op doesn't apply his intellect in the household, clover is growing instead of grass because of low nitrogen in the soil, or like some fancy stuff to do with like whatever logistics are in the house, right? Then his wife will just see him as a glorified trivia expert. Now, this is to specs. Your wife will respect you more when she admires you. Like, do you think you deserve admiration? If not, start working on becoming more admirable as a person. It goes back to a MidsWatch like in the 50s where it's your goal in the red pill, especially if you're in a relationship or married, isn't to fuck your wife. Your goal is to be more fuckable. Puts the onus at the locus of control on you, puts the success on you, and doesn't put you in any double binds. And this is kind of like just expanding upon that. So consider showing your wife how many people, women, do admire you, and perhaps an attitude adjustment is in order if she cares to stay married to you. Now, if you want to like practical that up, there's a whole bunch of places you can take that. Easy one, in those social situations where he's talking about how awesome he is and friend's wife is poking fun, just flirt back. That's how the game is played. Do you think he's the first guy who's ever talked about how awesome he was around a group of women? I guarantee you, they've got more experience in hearing dudes talk about how awesome they are than you can imagine. It's almost up there with it's like the second type of notch count, the brag count. So yeah, they're going to poke fun, and they're going to find the guys who have confidence double down on it because they are confident. They're also going to find the guys that aren't confident and are faking it start trying to defend themselves. There's a concept called DEAR that you really need to learn. Defend, excuse, explain, and rationalize. And Op did that. Specs are here. He started rationalizing, pulling up see, I got a source. And that right there, once you're doing that, you become a validation-seeking person in that arrangement. In other words, you put the other person as the judge of your value and your behavior. And if there's one thing that dries up panties more than anything, if there's one thing that makes wives decide, not tonight, I have a headache again, it's the idea of putting them in charge. Like Rich Cooper says it. He's like, if you treat her like a celebrity, she treats you like a fan. And that's kind of what we're getting at here. So the takeaway from you guys, pretty simple. If you're going to be Ric Flair, go all Ric Flair. If you're gonna talk about how awesome you are and they poke at you, just roll with the joke, man. This is why I always tell guys, join an improv class. If you don't know how to roll with things, then improv is going to be a great way to learn it, because you can't just say no and reset the scene. You have to go with what you're given. And then a lot of this wouldn't even matter. Like, you can fake it, sure, like the way I've been talking about, but you really want to make it. And that's the point. It's not to be able to have some tips and tricks to hide your insecurities. It's not to have insecurities at all. It's at the point where you don't need a 2-day men's retreat to feel like a man. It's, I'm going fishing with 2 buddies because that's what I'm going to do. And that's what men do. They kind of just plop themselves down somewhere and dare somebody to move them. They have the freedom to go and do what they want because they know it's like sustainable. Like, they don't go fishing when the rent is due, but they go fishing after the rent's been paid. Anyway, take from that what you need. It's a simple lesson, but I swear to God, from the 500th alpha male I've seen on Twitter and on YouTube and on live streams and everywhere, they fall for this one more than anything. And I guarantee you can try this out yourself. When you're in a social situation with some other dudes who are bragging about how awesome they are, try just ignoring whatever fantasy they want you to believe, and see how many of them instantly start to defend, excuse, explain, or rationalize why they are as awesome as they say. And then you're going to start to understand what it means when a girl says, I want a man who just gets it. Because you're watching a guy in real time who doesn't get it. So enjoy yourselves. Catch you guys in the next episode. Have fun. Cheers. Gentlemen. All right, that's one. Put you away for now. Next one, shit test, comfort test, crazy bitches. Dude, I've been holding this coffee for like 5 minutes. I just wanted to sip it. All right, what did we miss here? How's it going? Oh, look at this. All my Minecraft fellas. The T-Rex army is here. I guess that's the one thing I have to expect when you're filming these things live at like 10 in the morning. And so I got 7 in the States, in the West Coast. So you guys are probably just getting up, having a coffee. It's like, oh, wonderful night's sleep. I'm going to go listen to some dude rant about women. You know? Yeah. Anyways, lots of fellas here. Always makes me wonder what could cause a guy to just wash his hands and walk. What? I'm apparently missing a bunch of the conversation here. I'm getting caught up slowly. Yeah, best thing is when people call you an asshole, just laugh it off. I've been called that so many times. A narcissist, my reply was always laugh. Dude, like a personal story. When I was running my map in my relationship, and this was before the main event, I remember there was a giant increase in emails and giant text messages of accusations. I'm a narcissist. I was selfish. It's kind of where I came to the conclusion, like I realized, and I kind of sold this to guys, and I'm like, just don't read these things. Like, who cares? And it's, if honestly, the non-response is the best response. Like, oh, you're such an asshole. It's like, sip your coffee and, okay. Like, what do you want me to do? Hey, what's up, T-Rash? Working at home in his pajamas. Oh, dude, you gotta get dressed. I know you're probably enjoying yourself, and I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it's something I learned from my military time, is that even if you're working from home, the process of getting ready, dressing up, taking the shower and the shit and the shave, it puts your headspace in there. And it helps. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like the wall of separation between work life and home life, because that's the one thing that I've had to learn as a skill set that's really important, is to have that separation. My old lady's been trying to learn it too, but she's having it a bit harder. I remember that seeing her at like 11 at night, and we're getting ready to go to bed. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, the server went down, and I'm talking to IBM right now. I'm like, put that down and go to bed. You aren't a tech person. They are. Get them to text you when it's complete. You're not even supposed to have a job. You're disappointing Cappy. Yeah. Anyways, next one's going to be a short one. I'm going to like it. We'll get into that. Let's do it again. This guy's asking, was it a fitness test? Was it a comfort test? Or is his wife just a crazy... I can't use that word, not for the first 30 seconds of the video. Welcome, guys. MidsWatch. If you're catching this one live, it's probably Thursday at midnight, probably around there, or 9 o'clock if you're on the West Coast. This is going to be a fairly basic and simple field report. Is this guy can't tell the difference between 3 red-pilled concepts: a shit test, a comfort test, and a crazy bitch. So it's a nice opportunity. Now, there's an episode, a couple episodes back from this one, that was me talking about different kinds of tests that you're going to get while you're in a marriage and what the purpose is and how to handle them. If you haven't seen it, go back on them anyway. Yeah. Got to pause that one. I just realized I forgot something. Oh no, recordings. So this one is... All right. Back to it. I won't belabor you with the details. If you guys don't know what those concepts are, that's fine. Just simply put, a shit test is a girl who's like attracted to you but kind of gets bratty in order to check if it's a real signal or if you're faking it. Comfort test is when a girl feels insecure about her place in your relationship, and so she seeks comfort to stave off anxiety. And crazy is just crazy. So the guy starts off, and this is the classic post. It turns out the deleted is the most common guy in a struggling marriage. They mostly do this. They'll come in, they'll have 1 or 2 kind of obvious questions a couple months in, then delete their stuff and run off. Turns out most guys don't like putting in the work, and they're kind of embarrassed about this stuff. So that's why a majority of guys just aren't going to make it. He goes, whatever the hell this was, I failed it. He's doing his usual nighttime routines with the wife, trying to play a game. And she's like, oh, I really like this, looking at his body, but I'm not attracted to you. And then he starts thinking about it. He shuts up, which is smart. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything. So he's interpreting it as, I think you're hot, but just too beta for me. And he's still thinking. And then the wife chimes in again. It's like, yeah, I don't think I've ever been attracted to anyone. And to him, he's like, okay. Probably the best answer he can give. He is truly clueless in this one. He goes, but anyway, I'm in the sex desert, so that's still a constant. But what the hell was that? When he's talking about the sex desert, he just means a dead bedroom. His wife is not attracted to him, so they don't have sex. And because they don't have sex, most guys start to try seeking validation from their wives. Most of the wives get less attracted, and that's how most marriages break up. Who'da thunk? Turns out all that stuff about Jesus and the Bible doesn't matter. Without attraction, you don't have anything else. And a couple points on this one from my thoughts before I get into Jack's thing. Women think by communication. So when she's saying that stuff, she doesn't know what she believes yet. She has a feeling of a lack of attraction. At the same time, the op's been working out. He's starting to look better. So there's kind of like a disconnect there. She's trying to understand, like, I don't get it. Am I attracted to this guy or am I not attracted to this guy? My take on it is a shit test because she sees the hot body. She's becoming attracted to it. But she's like, oh, I'm not really attracted to my husband for whatever reason. And so they have to start talking to kind of figure out what's going on. That's why this is a shit test. So if he responds with something cocky and funny and confident and aloof, healthy narcissism, all that stuff, she's like, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm attracted to him. It's a subliminal process, but it happens. In this case, he just stands there like a dope and stares, and she's like, oh, okay, never mind. I was wrong. And so that's where he screwed it up. So about 7 years ago, Jack comes in and starts talking to him. He's like, all right, whatever this test was, yeah, you failed it. And you're going to continue to feel this way as long as you're a thirsty motherfucker who can only evaluate any progress in the context of his wife's attraction to him. Like, look. This is going to be the last time I comment on one of your threads. This guy, it turns out, had a history of these, does she like me threads? You need to develop and follow a male action plan and be able to intrinsically evaluate how well you're measuring up in it. The fact that you're unable to do this is a huge barrier to anything you want to accomplish. I mean, you seem insistent to only evaluate how well you're measuring up in the context of your wife's reactions to you, which we've readily established is likely a girl with full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. You are literally asking her to gaslight you, which she's more than willing to do because NPDs are pretty much all about gaslighting. That's why this is so fucking frustrating to me. You can't keep coming here once a week saying, okay guys, I did some red pill stuff like you guys said, but my wife still won't sleep with me, and then she makes mean comments about me and my appearance, so I don't think I'm doing it right. What should I do instead? Look, to hell with that, man. Like, I'm going to give you the closest thing to a step-by-step plan to getting your shit together. Everyone else is free to critique it, and I would welcome those critiques, as I don't claim to be the final authority on any of this. But out of principle, it's pretty much driving me crazy on how close you are to almost getting it, and then falling for the same emotional bullshit from your wife over and over and over again. Develop and follow your map. For fuck's sakes, it's almost July. Make a list of goals you want to accomplish for the next 6 months. The goal should have a wide breadth across your life: professional, fitness, social, etc. Side note from me here, it's funny, my second book, it's actually in the 7 years since this came out. This is what frame was. He's basically describing frame before we knew what frame was and how to describe it at frame. And what he's referring to here is something we came to call the tetrahedron of frame. The idea that your physical self, your emotional self, and your intellectual self form a pillar, like a triangular base, and then on top of that is vision. And then the idea of that is how you build your own mental point of origin, aka frame. But it was cute, because back then, you can see where he's going with this, but like, oh man, if only he knew how much more we're going to add in the next decade. It's going to be great. The goals must be objectively concrete. Lift more is not a goal. A 170-pound person with 12% body fat is a goal. If you have 10% fat, your wife's attraction is irrelevant. It means you're ripped as hell, and by any objective standard, you're fuckable. And if your wife isn't fucking you, that's her problem. The rationale for the above is to start with this. Someone who can do X is an impressive person. Then go become someone who can do X. It's that simple. You keep reducing yourself to, my wife's not sleeping with me, all these things can't be that impressive, and it's again, to hell with that. The goal here is to make your own frame and evaluate that within this context. So she's probably going to resist it. She's going to belittle you, put you down, call you a wanker, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Why? Because I'm instructing you to go on a sexual hiatus. Until you accomplish everything in your map, you're done attempting to have sex with her. Just don't. I'm not saying shut down and be icy, be cold. I'm saying be pleasant. Be a good father. Your map should have things like household goals, remodeling, or whatever you want to get done in your house, but you're taking sex out of the equation. It seems like a drastic step, and I'm sure this will be controversial amongst the red pill, but I'm instructing you to do so you can stop using your wife's willingness to fuck you as a barometer. So no sex, 6 months or sooner if you accomplish your goals. If she offers it, turn her down, because it'll probably be starfish and bad, and you wonder if you're really making progress and why she's still so sexually closed off in the event of said progress. And I think that's why this is important. I'm suggesting this because it will force you to care about and notice other manifestations of your progress. You're going to get a raise at work, feel good about yourself, come home feeling like $1 million, only for your wife to say some shit like, nice job, wanker, took you long enough. And you will be sad because that means she still won't sleep with you, which will demotivate you from continuing to kick ass professionally. So once again, hell with that. Your accomplishments are their own reward, whether they lead to her wanting to screw with you or to screw you. And it doesn't really matter anymore because you can't screw her anyway. So that's my advice. And I understand, don't sleep with your wife if she's down is generally against the conventional wisdom of the married red pill. But in your case, you're so short-sighted about drawing correlations between progress and sex that I'm suggesting you rip off the Band-Aid and essentially go into a short-term monk mode. My primary hope is that you develop some intrinsic appreciation for your own progress. My secondary hope is you develop some awareness for the secondary appreciation from other people that aren't your wife. You can look into that however you want. When a friend says you're a fitness freak because you're committed to the gym, you should not think, well, for all the good that does me, my wife won't sleep with me. You should be thinking, damn straight. I like this one. I like this one because it shows that like everybody loves to talk about red pill's a philosophy, red pill's a dogma, it's an ideology, it's a cult or whatever. And I'm just like, no, it's not. Everything is hypothetical. There's two types of imperatives. An imperative is, think of it like an order. There's hypothetical imperatives and there's categorical imperatives. Categorical ones are things are good because they're good. Like ideology has categorical imperatives. Good Christian men do this. Good feminists do that. Good liberals and conservatives do this and that and the other thing. And there's none of that in the red pill. It's all hypothetical, which means like if you want something, do this. If you don't want it, then don't. In this case, this guy's problem here is that he bases his self-worth completely on the amount of sex his wife gives him. He's given her the entire keys to the kingdom. He's given her the ability to be judge, jury, and executioner. And the problem is she's most likely psychologically unhinged. And so she knows she has that power and she wields it like a weapon. Now, when he's talking specifically there, it's actually from, was it from No More Mr. Nice Guy? I think it's from the end of No More Mr. Nice Guy where he talks about a sexual hiatus. To date, I've actually talked with Glover about this. Rolo's talked with Glover about this, and we kind of worked it amongst ourselves in the various red-pilled spaces we're in. And we see that necessarily as a bad idea. The idea as a man, you're horny, you're sexual, never turn down sex, you should be trying to sleep all the time, like who cares? Absolutely true, 99% of scenarios. In that case, this guy's problem isn't, like he thinks it's his problem is not getting laid. But his problem isn't that. His problem is he's using getting laid as his measure of judgment. And so he has to disconnect the idea of sex and his value as a man in order to become valuable as a man to get more sex from wives or whoever. So yeah, this is one of those times where like the if really matters. And that's why it's not really anti-red pill. It's red pill because it's going to work. And he kind of chimes in later on. It's like, all right, fair enough. I get where you're coming from. I'm going to stop posting. Just read. Just lurk. It's not that I'm butthurt about this stuff. I'm just confused. And so if I can grok what you're saying, then your summary is your wife is really crazy. Get yourself sorted out over everything else, including sex. Reevaluate. Check progress against your plan by the end of the year. Is that fair? Jack's like confused. Yeah, no shit. Of course you're confused. You've been gaslit by your narcissistic wife for this whole relationship. It occurred to me, you may not even know what gaslighting means. So he gives him a definition of gaslighting. He's like, yeah, the last thing you should be doing is trying to evaluate your progress relative to this person. None of us should be doing that anyway. But do you see why, in the case of your particular case with your wife, with a fucked up mental model, is an absolutely horrible idea? You're like an abused girl trying to measure her progress by how often her abusive boyfriend beats the shit out of her. Like, I did this and he still beat me. Why did he act that way? What am I doing wrong? What advice would you give that girl? Would you feel it was a worthwhile exercise to deconstruct her boyfriend's reactions? Or would you just attribute it to his reactions being a mentally unbalanced person, and maybe she should stop giving a shit about how he reacts and get the fuck out of there? And yet, like the abused girl, you seem so completely insistent on doing the former, and I can't figure out why. Like, who cares what kind of reactions your wife gives you? The definition of a narcissist is somebody who invents their own reality that revolves around them because they're too insecure to deal with actual reality. There's not going to be a strong correlation between your improvement and any differences in her actions. I was like, let me be clear. The plan is necessary because you need an objective standard to measure your progress. Some of us have the luxury of a well-adjusted wife who, outside of some shit testing, respond fairly well to a red pill inspired change. While we would make these changes for their sake, something like, I used to have sex once a month, and now it's twice a week. Clearly I'm doing something right and should keep doing it, is useful as a barometer. You don't get that luxury. It's going to take a long time before your wife responds with anything close to what you would consider positive change. In fact, she will respond even more negatively at first, because, in her mind, she's married to the supplicating beta bitch who waits on her husband, or whose husband waits on her, hand and foot, gladly accepts any torrent of abuse that she deems worthy of giving him. The second you begin to act remotely like you're no longer buying what she's selling, her deep-seated insecurity will cause her to freak the fuck out. What he is talking about here, what Jack is bringing up, is a concept I've told you guys about for years now. It's unhealthy narcissism, or NPD. The idea is you're inventing a reality, and then you require everybody else to supplant it. That's narcissistic fuel and a narcissistic fantasy. In the case of his improvement, it actually goes against that fantasy that she has of her supplicative punching bag husband. And so when he rejects that narrative, it actually doesn't cause her to change the narrative. It causes her to lash out on a condition called narcissistic rage. That's why narcissists flip the fuck out when you don't acknowledge their script. And in this case, it sucks because, I mean, this would almost be better placed in like a female dealing with your shitty husband help forum. Because this is really and truly a case of men who have been raised to act like defective women. Like an NPD wife, there shouldn't be NPD wives. The husbands should have the NPD. The husbands should be the one who like constantly berate their wives and shit like this. The wives are supposed to be borderline. The wives are supposed to build their identity off the strongest personality in the room. If you've ever dated a borderline person, they're the ones that like love bomb you and fall in love with you, and then next week they hate you and they can't stand you. This is a total role reversal, and it's just, it really makes me wonder, like maybe my place in the universe is like a female dating coach. I just take like beta husbands and their wives and just like retool that advice and switch the genders out. It probably works like a charm. Anyways, most of the rest of this is just asking this guy to have some self-reflection. Again, he deleted his account. He moved on. No idea how he ended up. The roadmap was sound. I like to think that he took that advice to heart. He stopped posting all the time. He made the effort, realized the wife's probably not worth it, or maybe she got her shit together, said she needed help. Chances are, though, about 80% of the guys, and these are like the very few guys that even come here that want to learn, about 80% of them end up just finding some way to cope with their lives of quiet misery because the work was too hard, or they didn't want to have to make difficult decisions, or it's just they'd rather not take responsibility for their own happiness, and they'd rather just find a way to be happy with what they got. So I don't know, maybe I'm cynical, but from your perspective, there's an easy lesson here that you can take. It's like, don't use other people for your validation. And when people say you got to do things for yourself, and it's like it's a thought terminating cliche, which is true, but it's also not helpful the way it's worded there. You got to think of it this way. If somebody realizes that they are the reason you're getting validation and they have any problems with you or problems with themselves, chances are they're going to weaponize that thing. So you need to have objective metrics of success. Now, I know it's not always going to be the case. So most of the times women are what they call a lagging indicator of success. If you become more attractive, if you become more successful, more charismatic, generally speaking, once you've had all that together, about a couple weeks later, a girl starts to respond to it, which is generally good. But while that is there for like 90% of us, you just have to be prepared that the other person, even if you have these skills, isn't going to get it. And you need to truly believe, again, objectively know, not think, but know that you're worth a damn. And that if she's not going to give you some, well, then there is a younger, hotter, tighter body out there that's more than willing to take her spot. And if you're not there, I'm not saying like, yeah, Ryan said it, so I'll go. No, I mean, like, if you're really, really not there, then you got work to do to get there. I don't even want to like understate how much psychological work that is. Like I said, I've got an entire book just going through the process of getting there. Everything from how you shine your shoes, to what you shove in your mouth, to how you sleep with your wife, to like how you deal with a fight with your mother-in-law. And all that stuff comes together, and it sucks to say, but it's like Carl Sagan was right. The way to bake a pie, first you have to create the universe, and in this case, you essentially have to create a man until you can handle that bitchy wife. So take that for what it's worth. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. Take this as a pep talk and not as like a cautionary tale. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers. All right. So that one is episode 70. I think I'm naming these things right. Oh no, wait, that's where'd it go? 68. I'm going backwards. It's such a messed up thing that the numbering I have for my episodes, I started it in reverse order. So while the episodes go up on YouTube, they're going down on my list. Well, nobody said I was smart. Anyways, Matt Randall, Ryan Stone, the Jordan Peterson of relationships. Well, dear God, I hope not, sir. I hope not. I don't think you're ever going to see me cry on this channel. Not about that stuff. Maybe when my dog dies, I'll cry. My dog, my parents, my brother, or my old lady. I think I'll give some tears to them, but I'm not going to film it for you guys. And I think the only pills I have like some ephedrine in here somewhere. No diazepam, so don't worry. Green light. Women don't care about your struggles. They wait at the finish line and divorce grape you. Hey, yeah, I'm almost kind of missing, what was that guy? Violent Grape, without the G. That account. You gotta admit, that was a man who's like, I'm all in. Bottom line, I've been broke, had plenty of sex, had lots of money, less sex. All women know is what they feel. Yeah, it's honestly still Rise. You got it right. It's money and attraction and a healthy marriage are almost disconnected. Like there's just no correlation. There really isn't. Money is what you use to build a lifestyle, essentially. I know it's a weird way of putting it, but it's true. You want to live in a certain neighborhood, you want to live in a certain area, you want to have a certain profession that gives you a certain status. That's the kind of things that matter for money. And like whatever your motivations are for doing those, I want it, my wife wants it, whatever. You just have to accept that it's not going to have anything to do with attraction. Otherwise, Bill Gates would be swimming in poon right now. He's not. In fact, this is something else guys are having to come to accept. We were just talking about this on Saturday, weren't we? On the Rule Zero, that labor force participation among men is at an all-time low. Ideally, I would like to think that most of those men are in the shadow economy, but there's a lot that are essentially on like medical disability and living in slums, which sucks. Women are out earning their husbands and significant partners, I think 40%, or was it 50% now? I'd have to go check. I can't remember. But the point is, like, most men aren't out earning women, but women are still having sex with men that aren't out earning them. So what's the thing there? And it really is like just how you make a girl feel matters. Like I got a buddy, he's a good earner too. Like don't get me wrong, he's a great contractor, ex-military. A lot of people here would love to be like him, but his wife out earns him by like an order of magnitude. Like we're talking she's the one selling cigarette ads on the side of F1 cars kind of rich. What's they do though? Every payday, she's like, there's my paycheck, man. Sort out the family. It's what you're good at. And he's got his stuff on lock. Although there, like I said, I keep telling you guys, he got the perfect family vibe to him. Like I remember it was like Winnipeg and they ran a marathon. The wife just gave, like the kid was like 6 months old and they were like pushing the kid through a half marathon in a stroller. I was like, Jesus. I don't think I got that in me, but you know, power to you. Power to you. What the heck? Do we have another Mish? Oh, whatever. Or I mean another To be fair to Blood Brother who just got the boot. As a joke, yes, the violent grape guy was a hero and I drove him away. Yeah, dude. I don't think people watch me. I'm like, what the? No. I think it was on the Minecraft channel too, wasn't it? I like too how Billy has become like a verb now to describe somebody who creates a joke count for like crappy engagement. Makes me laugh. Anyways, where we are. Big event. Oh yeah, this one's gonna be nice. So this one, long story on this one. I'll give you guys some like behind the scenes footage. The character who made this account his original account was called Over 60 Stupid Loner. And he was 65 when he first found the pill. And the same reason as everybody else. Wife won't have sex, like his third wife or something like that, won't have sex with him. We got his shit turned around in about a year. It turns out the older you are, the faster your map goes, because it's just guys are better at that. So he got his stuff all together, and then it turns out he was like a financier, fairly wealthy guy, you know, made a bunch of money. He was like really helpful. So for a lot of the business advice he has in here, it's just like absolutely amazing. In fact, if you guys have been on my Patreon, which if you haven't, I don't know why you're not on it. He talks about his best post was gaining control of the treasury, like how to handle being in a marriage where you have a wife that's spending you out of house and home. A to Z list. The only thing out of it that doesn't measure up today is he talks about writing checks, which means he's, I guess in the States you guys still do that. But other than that, it's probably one of the best things ever. But no, I always got time and patience for the guy. Gray-pilled guys get our shit together fast. We're running out of time. I can see that. I can see that. I'm an NFL player cash apped $10,000 to a model face friend with benefits I had back in 2019. It was to fly her out. Instead, she told him she was sick and flew me out to Cancun. Dude, that's like those Twitch stream chicks that are like, they get, somebody sends them like $5,000 and they're like, hey, honey, he just sent us $5,000. Isn't that great? I'm going to blow you later. Yeah, dude, never give a chick money. Never give her a chick money. That's like the Briffel's Law thing where it's, what did they say? The second she gets her side of the bargain, then the contract's null and void. Yeah. Anyways, I only have so much voice left in me, so we're going to do another one of these. Bam. Is this like the 4th video I've had on the main event? And I'm just like, oh, am I overdoing it? Then I realized, like, no, it's important. And maybe 1 out of 20 guys who even get it managed to successfully pass it. So, yeah. Welcome, MidsWatch, Ryan. Another episode. If you're new to the channel, welcome, like, subscribe. Why is it called a MidsWatch? It's because it comes out at midnight, and it reminded me of my old days sailing when I was on shift work. It's an ASMR red-pilled fest. No White Claws, just red pills. This one is about a field report from a big main event and reset game. And I like this because I talked before about the main event. If you don't know what a main event is, when a man is running his male action plan, becoming red pill, doing his things, there usually becomes a point where the girl starts to experience more dread and anxiety in her relationship, realizing that her man is becoming more valuable and she's starting to lose him. At first, it doesn't really matter because she wasn't really attracted. But over time, she starts to feel anxiety about it, and desire comes at the tail end of anxiety. Sex life increases, and then sometimes what happens is it manifests in a permanent state of a role reversal. Like basically, the man is in charge now, and this is the mother of all comfort test, and we call it the main event. And if you don't know if you're in a main event or not, I'll say if you have to ask, the answer is no. If there's not snot bubbles, sobbing, that hiccup. If that's not there, it's not a main event. A main event is not anything other than like a complete meltdown. And once you pass it, things changes. So for this guy who's been around for forever, he's probably the oldest guy I knew of who was in the red pill. This was 2015, and he was 64 at the time. So do the math. Yeah, the big event came out of nowhere. The wife took a little thing, blew it up for 3 days, test after test after test, trying to get me into full beta suck-up mode, victim pukes galore, accusations, and finally begging me not to leave her, promise me any sex I want, and asking for a reset. And in spite of this event, I'm making too many mistakes for this to be the last big event. Oh, what he was referring to there, by the way, is something called hysteric bonding, which is a concept that comes in place in the main event. You know how guys like Rollo Tomasi talk about a woman's sexuality is her only agency? Well, yeah, it turns out when relationship security gets threatened in her mind large enough, it's the same fight or flight response that somebody gets in a serious danger. And so what do? They basically turn into that porn star crazy sex in order to secure a guy. It's like the ultimate mate retention strategy. It's actually a neat concept. You can find out more about it. Read into the work of David Buss and Cindy Minson. They have a book, Why Women Have Sex, where they talk about it. It's kind of interesting. So he's like, I've been using soft red since I started the red pill about 6 months ago. Last month, my weight loss and muscle gain started paying off. My appearance is looking better. I'm 100% gray in the head. And I cut it a little shorter and started color blending. As I lost weight, I bought new style, glasses, fitted jeans, shirts, blazers, and show it all off. Overall, I look more like the successful businessman that I've always been, instead of just another fat old grandpa. And when I started refusing to eat the food she prepared that wasn't on my diet, as I had requested of her, small aside, if you're in a relationship, realize this. People like you the way you are, and they don't like it when you change. So once you start improving, especially physically, do expect your girl to start trying to sabotage you with food instantly. It's just one of those things. It's easier to make you fat and not unattractive than it is to accept that you got a hot husband with you. It makes no sense. Welcome to the world of women. What can I tell you? Her hamster was visibly shaken. I threw away any candy she offered me, skipped meals that were not on my diet, and then she started nagging me about my diet. I jokingly told her I was a food Nazi, and this hit her more than the waitress that seems to want to flirt with me in front of her now. So more than the gym 3 times a week. I guess this was her dread tipping point. So first day of this, midday, leaving the house, making a furniture purchase. She starts giving me rapid fire orders in front of her friend that's coming along. I lose my temper and make a very angry comment about, yes, your royal highness. She says, what did I do to deserve that? He gets his control back and tells her, look, I lost my temper, shouldn't have. Let's just say, let's get this done and go. So he's under control, but she couldn't leave it alone. She makes one snarky comment after another, more whining, more complaining, then crying to her friend about how I'm so nasty. He's like, partially right there. Fair. So by the time we get home, he gets to witness The Exorcist home movie version. She accuses you of affairs, and he's like, none. Hating her, trying to kill her, and he's like, really? Calling her names, he's like, nope. Oversexed and deviant, he goes, granted. Lazy, yet when I try to get too much done, I'm uncaring. She can't live like this. She keeps telling how she's the victim, has no friends, is 5 pounds overweight, lost his sense of humor, blah, blah, blah. And of course, all of this victim puke crap is his fault. So he just sits there, stays the course, maintains his frame, and in spite of taking way too much grief, he's like, I shouldn't have listened to half of that. Finally, she runs out of gas and goes to bed, only to stay awake most of the night with a crazy, raging hamster. And he's like, I slept like a baby. Day 2 starts with the home version, part 2. Same actors, same plot, but this time she gets on her knees and begs him not to leave her for a younger, sexier woman. Begs him to stay with her. Begs. On her knees. He's like, holy shit, I was not ready for that one. She was so sad, I almost caved into full beta male supplication mode. Suddenly, I remembered, you cannot fail this main event. You can't. I held firm. Thank you guys so much for putting that thought in my head, because I would have totally screwed this up. Day 2 ended same as day 1. She wears out, goes to bed, then stays up most of the night with her hamster. He's like, I slept better than I thought I would. And day 3. Full day of shit tests. Victim pukes. She comes to him in the evening to talk. Now she's more rational and exhausted. She says she'll do anything sexually that I want. She just wants a reset. And he's like, I planted that term on her with the prior conversations, which it actually is a red pill concept, the reset. So she wants the great relationship they had before, before he went supplicative. He's like 6 years ago. And she also wants him to stop being so angry at her all the time. He's like, that's more than fair. I told her, same. So they hug, they kiss, the end. And unlike you younger guys, no hot sex was had at the end of this exorcism. We were just too tired until tomorrow. And then it just wasn't that great. So a big event, not the big event. He's like, I don't think this is complete or lasting without continued effort. Looking back, when she said she wanted the great relationship we had before, I think what she meant is she wanted the beta guy back. So he's been working on inner game. His biggest faults are one-itis, his unwillingness to consider divorce, and holding frame. Although he's like, I've been working on those. It's been difficult for me to control my anger. As a result, I'm often detached to the point of cold-bloodedness, very short, sometimes being mean. Sometimes when she complains and shit tests, I get angry. Even if I try to hold it back, the anger shows and it's hard to control. So I've been excusing and rationalizing my poorly controlled behavior as part of the anger phase. Now, I believe what I'm really doing is losing frame and allowing myself to act like a bitch. But, working on it. She knows that he could just walk away, but doesn't believe that he would, because he's still working on his one-itis and it shows. She also believes more strongly than I do that I could attract someone better, but not that I would because of my weak frame and bouts of, goofy behavior. So bottom line, I'm going to prepare for the next big event, improving, strengthening my inner game. I believe I can solve my credibility problem by being more credible. As I continue, advice and comments greatly appreciated. So yeah, couple thoughts on this before I finish it off. Like, he handled it well. It's for the main event. This is something guys don't realize. It's so that comfort test is where she doesn't know how to keep you around. Glad you're getting your feelings. Yeah, she doesn't know about how to keep him around. So girls kind of respond with like this hysteria. Like, you know, I talked before how women use language to process things. That's what she's doing here. Now, as a guy, you got to realize that the way this conversation goes solidifies the reality in her head. If she realizes she can cry and get hysteric, and then you go back to your previous way that was unattractive, not sexually attractive, then you've established the narrative, the frame. And here's the frame. Every time you act in a way that she does not like or makes her feel uncomfortable, she acts hysteric, and you will act in a way that makes her more comfortable. You're literally encouraging a girl to become psychotic. So yeah, you have to be a bit of a prick here. You have to be mean, you have to be cold. She can cry, she can snot bubble, she can accuse you of all these things. She can emote as much as she wants. And it's like, and this is partially what the concept that comes after. It's called come to Jesus. And that's the idea, is you're letting them know the narrative moving forward. Like, what is the frame? And in this case, it's like, look. In his case, he's like, yeah, fair. I sometimes get too angry. I can work on that. It's fair. I like when things go back to the way they used to be. For him, the way they used to be means happy. And that's all that he cares about. And he goes, all you have to do is just not do this stuff. And all I have to do is work on being better in those ways that we are both acknowledging are true. So all this hysteria kind of goes away, and then she realizes, and this is what the narrative becomes then. It becomes, I'm having a huge amount of anxiety because this attractive man, I might lose him. I ask for comfort. He gives me comfort. I have that release of anxiety, and, you know, sexually it turns into a happier, healthier marriage. Of course, they're older, but I'll tell you right now, it's like, dude, had he gone for it that night, he'd had the pooper. Just saying. Anyways, back to the thing here. So Jack and him are talking. He's like, yeah, a main event happens when a woman simultaneously acknowledges her insecurities and realizes that the only one responsible for mitigating those insecurities is her. They all follow the same pattern. A wife projects a bunch of shitty behavior onto the husband, accuses of being unsympathetic to her laundry list of insecurities, then there's a break. The wife realizes they're hers, and if they're unchecked, will lead to the ultimate insecurity, being a post-wall woman with a stretched vagina caused by multiple kids and no man. So every shit test before the main event is communicating the same thing. How dare you make me acknowledge a reality where you leave me because I failed to address my faults? I personally think that fucking 60 here knocked it out of the park. His wife doesn't need beta bucks anymore. Kids are grown. If they have retirement funds, she'll get a big chunk of it in divorce. Plus, no shortage of government benefits for elderlies in the US. If she's got her shit together, I can't imagine it was because, okay, I need to shape up because otherwise I'll lose this guy in the beta bucks gravy train. She doesn't need the beta bucks. She doesn't want to just be a divorced cat lady in her 50s or 60s because of any guy of appropriate dating age, because he's bang out a 36-year-old and still be age appropriate. Op is struggling because of too little comfort in this sense, which I don't know if I agree with Jack's take, but I mean, go with it here. In his previous posts and comments, he talks a lot about anger, probably because his wife explicitly said she needs to act a certain way, and it's only when he did the opposite that he got any results. That's annoying. It's easy to feel intentionally misled. It's like, why would you tell me to do the exact opposite of what would make you more attracted to me? Why? Are you just some sort of sadistic bitch who loved neutering every aspect of masculinity while convincing me it was in my best interest? It's like, dude, look, man, let it go. The main event is just another demonstration of all women are like that, or AWOLD. Your wife's blue pill, beta bitch advice sucked, and there was no real game here. It was just a misguided woman regurgitating crap from society because the truth, the idea that you could leave her if she didn't take responsibility for herself and by proxy, making you happy, was too scary to acknowledge. That's it, man. Your main event proves exactly that. So for less confrontational shit tests, try more fogging. You can acknowledge your insecurities without indulging them. Sometimes, like, you're clearly unhappy with things in your life, but I don't want to really think they have much to do with me. Take a moment, think about what's happened, blah, blah, blah. So just stay stoic. Don't take the bait. Just see your wife as who she is, a scared wife who's coming to terms that her previous shitty behavior may have trapped her in a life of a 60-year-old divorcee. That's scary, man. Her shit tests are coming out of fear. Remember that. Like I said, don't indulge it. But when you see her anger as misguided fear, you'll find the shit tests are a lot easier to handle and to remain stoic. So I guess I'll end on this. Like, I get Jack's perspective here. Mine is kind of, I got the benefit of hindsight. So it's neat to see this. And I think it would be good for guys to realize, because I mean, how many of us are into fights online with random chicks you don't even know? Dude, my half my timeline has like Catholic women that hate their husbands and they hate me too. Or like weird spinsters having their "I'm still hot, how dare you, sir." Once you realize all this anger isn't angry, bitter, spiteful women, it's just scared. Of course they're scared. Who wants to, like, think about how much you as a guy don't want to end up alone and lonely. Now multiply that by 10. And that's what a girl feels. Girls hate the idea of like being socially isolated. It goes right against their DNA. It's like a guy when you're going to get mugged. It's like that fight or flight kicks right in, man. Now, I'm not saying this to have some sympathy, but once you realize the motivations are fear and not anger or disdain or hate, you start to reframe it in a different way. You realize it's almost like a pitying response as opposed to an angry one. And you realize you've been making like a little scared chihuahua in the corner your arch nemesis when it's just a wee little girl. Just doesn't want to be alone, man. Anyways, so that's it for this one. Hope you learned a bit about the main event, handling it in your own relationships, and I don't know, maybe some insight into the human condition. So I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Cheers. Damn it, Adam, you made me break character, you son of a bitch. All right, that's 67. It's good to see you, man. I'm surprised this many people are up and at 'em at fucking 11 in the morning. Like, really? It's barely past breakfast. And I'm sitting here 2 hours into a 4-hour podcast stream and whatever. I regret nothing. Yeah, so over 60. It worked out well. By the way, they're still together as far as I know. I haven't talked to him since he turned, I guess he'd be like 72 now or 71. I haven't talked to him outside of his 60s. Last I talked to him was a couple years back. Oh no, last year. Yeah, last year. So he's happy. He's doing well. It's Monday. We're all at work. Yeah, fair enough. Next one. Getting handle on the things in an LTR. Oh, yeah, this one. Better job, career, new job, 3 years. Yeah, this is like Captain Savaho, the guy. I can't remember. Was it his kids or is it like stepkids? Oh, no, they're his kids. Okay, so yeah, I'm assuming the guy's common law. He's got the girlfriend, they got 2 kids, and yeah. Okay, not gonna lie, out of all these accounts, definitely not Billy. Fair. Fair, that makes me laugh. Don't be stupid, man. I actually wouldn't mind if you stuck with that nickname for a while. Ryan bullied, so I had to go put on pants. Oh, that's good, T-Rash. Remember, just because you're a bum doesn't mean you're lazy, you know? Not my mom. That bitch tore her entire family down. Well, you know, she might have been that narcissistic one. But again, it's all hypothetical. Like, all this stuff may apply to you perfectly, and it may not apply to you. But the one thing you can't say is it's not applicable. So you saw in one example, you got a fairly well-adjusted wife who's, like, terrified and filled with anxiety, throwing shit tests out left, right, and center. In the previous example, you had an NPD chick who's absolutely insecure but angry and spiteful and psychologically damaged, throwing out the exact same shit tests. And that's why, dude, that's why I know this stuff is not easy for everybody. Because you have, like, do you have a regular girl who's just afraid of being alone? Or do you have a narcissist who's psychologically damaged? You can't tell by the shit test. They're the exact same shit tests. So you really do have to keep your eyes open, build yourself into better people, and then realize, like, you try a lot of this stuff. You try mental model A. You try, you know, internalizing what AWOLT means. You try internalizing your mental point of origin. Don't dare. And then as you go through these A/B tests of all the tools in your toolbox, you start to build yourself an idea of the landscape, and then you can make better decisions. This is why I often tell guys, yeah, your wife may be a bitch, but you don't know that yet. So like, clean your own house or clean your own room. Because then you're going to find out, is she an asshole or is she right? And then once you do the work, you find out you're worth a damn. Other people want to have sex with you, all that kind of shit. And then your wife starts throwing the same shit at you. You're like, okay, this is obviously crazy because I know I'm fuckable. That waitress at Applebee's put her number on the receipt for me. And then you realize, okay, so she's crazy. But there's some cases where, yeah, you thought she was crazy, and then you go to the gym, work out, and then all of a sudden it's like, dude, it's crazy. She blows me 3 days a week. So maybe she was right. Maybe I was just a slovenly asshole. But the only way to know, man, same work to get there. Ryan and Jordan Peterson are opposite ends of the Canadian spectrum. I like to think so. He is part of the Laurentian elite, after all. He's like the Blue Bloods in Minnesota. Or where's the New England? Or where do those original Americans hang? It's like that. Holy shit, Ryan, calling me out. Only it was the Cheesecake Factory. All right, fair enough. Okay, we got two more. Next one is getting handle on an LTR. Let's start these ones up. Start the recording, damn it. Can't believe there's a New England. Don't worry, Marty. I'm getting back there. Oh, for fuck's sakes. I don't know why I keep getting these equipment stalls. Cancel that one. Start it again. Funny part, everybody loves leadership. Nobody likes to actually do some things to lead. So, hey, you're at where you're at. Welcome, guys. Another MidsWatch. This one, it's a bit more lighthearted. It's a guy trying to learn how to handle, like, being the patriarch. Get handle on things in a long-term relationship. Long-term, not long-distance. There's no such thing as long-distance relationships. I'll cut right to it, though. Hey, guys. I've been here on and off, along with the other guys at the Red Pill and the Ask the Red Pill. I'm exposed to it. I want to swallow it and regain control of my life. So to that end, I've worked hard over the past 8 months to find myself a better job that I can make a career out of now that I'm here at a new job. But it has caused many of what I guess are shit tests at home with the 5-year girlfriend. Basically, for the last 3 years, I've bent to her will, dropped the kids off to school when she didn't want to, picked them up from school every day when we got home, made dinner, cleaned, everything. And when she finally walked into the house at 7 or 7:30, everything was done. And yeah, insert Chad comment about her working late, I get it. So the new job comes and things have to change. I can't leave early every day and go get the kids. And the first week was a challenge, including one day where she just didn't leave and the kids were at school until after they closed, and I had to rush home to get them. But she eventually fell in line, is now getting the kids every day. I get home yesterday, and my girlfriend and the kids are on the couch watching a marathon of Dance Moms. And now I'm pretty sure they were home for at least an hour, because I guess that's how long the episodes are, and nothing's been done. No one even looks at him when he walks in the door. The kitchen isn't cleaned from dinner night before, pots and pans on the stove. He's like, I cooked, she didn't clean. I feel like I'm being baited out here. Now, I was going to make dinner anyway, frankly, because I'm the better cook, but now I have at least 30 minutes of cleaning before I can even start dinner. And from what I read, it smells like a shit test to me just to see if I'll do it. But in the end, how far do you push that test? I don't want to be eating at 11 at night. So it looks to me, even though I'm doing my part, now it's just her expectation of me to do everything. And everything I read on here at the related sub shows me I have the beta tendencies, once a month sex, feelings of no respect, finances out of control. And he's like, I don't get it. I'm in good shape. I'm like 6'6", 250 pounds. I could use some time in the gym and lifting. So I don't know. I'm just trying to see where I can push these shit tests, pass it, and move on, whatever. And a couple thoughts before we get started. She's just lazy. Like, people treat you as shitty as you let them, women especially. And so for his case, the reason she doesn't do any of this stuff is because she doesn't want to. And he's given her zero incentive to try. Instead, he would rather be the guy mumbling to himself and bitching about it. And it's just, he set no expectations for her. Now, he's coming from a good position because he's been doing work. Literally, she could die tomorrow and the family would still keep going. That's how much work he's doing. And the idea is that work is supposed to be where your authority derives. So when you tell her, get up and clean the fucking pots, and she starts giving you flack, you're like, no. I've got the career. I'm doing the cooking. Clean up the fucking pots. Because he's done enough work to know that he isn't insecure about that. He doesn't feel the need to negotiate. It's more of a command. He's commanding respect as opposed to demanding it. The only thing he's missing is that spine at the end. He just wants her to do it without him having to say. And that's the one thing a lot of leaders miss. They assume leadership is inferred. It's not. It's direct. Clean the fucking pots. So Jack's like, oh boy, look, I don't think Chad really exists. She's not at work cheating on him. I think your wife's just lazy. She stays late at work because that's a handy excuse to avoid responsibility for anywhere else in her life. You only fed into this narrative because it looks like your employment prospects were shitty before you got this shitty job. She got to hamster that she was the breadwinner, So things like picking up the kids or dinner or whatever was something else that she could just unload on you. Well, you want that to change. When it comes to leading your household, start small. Set up a joint account, put all the money for the bills to be paid in there, get her to transfer an equal share that you do to pay the said bills, and then you have your paycheck separate. Tell your family you expect to have a clean kitchen to come home to you if they want dinner. No clean kitchen, no dinner. The first time you're going to come home, and you will come home to a dirty kitchen, no dinner. Tell everybody you're going to buy some groceries, but you're only going to cook said groceries if the kitchen's clean when you get back in 30 minutes. And if it's still not clean, then just make yourself a sandwich and let them fend for themselves. You bought the groceries, they can fend for themselves. And keep repeating this as needed. Your wife and your kids will whine. Let them. Oh, stepkids. I knew it. Look at that, stepkids. That son of a bitch. Anyways, once you feel this is all running smoothly, take another step in financial leadership. Put together a savings plan to buy a house or some other goal. Tell your wife you want her to put in most of her paycheck, as you will, into a joint account. So part of your paycheck goes to bills, part goes to savings, long-term plans. The rest is just discretionary. You do what you want with it, right? And when you get to that point, cancel cable. It'll save money, and people cut the board. They can watch Netflix if they have to. I give my kids, his kids are 9, an app allowance. They get $20 a month to spend on digital goods, TV shows, games, whatever. And at least this way they learn about consumption as consequences. Watching bad TV shows is literally money out of their pocket. Alternatively, if they watch too much on the weekends, flip the circuit breaker in your house off. It's the weekend. You can't call a repair guy, so tell them to get out of the house and go play in the park or something. They'll be bored as hell for an hour, then they'll figure out a game to play because that's what kids do. Put together a plan for yourself, physical, professional development, etc. These are just some small steps to get things moving forward. Some will say things like the circuit breaker are too beta and you should just order them to play outside, but I find setting up a narrative that's out of your hands make it easier to set up a frame when you don't have one. So the next weekend you can just shut off the TV and say it's summer, go play outside. You did it last weekend and you had fun. So you mentioned one of the kids are 12, buy some hand weights, get them into some exercises, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'll end on this. With stepkids, your authority comes from your actions. You're like a teacher or a coach. You don't get the same kind of intrinsic respect a parent does, but if you're a good leader and somebody to admire, they'll listen to you more than their other parent, including their mom. So I'll end on this. If you understand kind of where he's going with this, it's that the guy does good work. He's the father that stepped up, not whatever. And the problem is nobody respects his authority. Nobody wants his respect. And that's because he doesn't give them any consequences for it. And so what he's teaching here is just very basic boundary enforcement, In this case, I'm going to cook dinner, but clean the kitchen. And at first, people test these boundaries. Dude, just watch right now. If you're at the time I recorded this, Elon Musk just bought Twitter. And he was saying, things are going to change. What did everybody do? Everybody on one side of the spectrum started throwing N-bombs on Twitter to test the new boundaries of free speech. And the other half started impersonating celebrities and causing problems. Everybody tests boundaries when they're first given them. But you just establish consequences. In this case, you want the dinner, clean the house. They don't clean the house, he doesn't make dinner. Well, that sucks. You're going to go to bed hungry or fend for yourselves. Well, those are those consequences. Then the next time when he's like, hey, dishes or no dinner, if they're hungry, guarantee they're scrubbing some pots. At the same time, you start there, then you build up, you're watching too much TV, hit the circuit breaker, turn off the TV, go play outside. And as you can see, what he's doing here is he's teaching them small, inconsequential steps to establish boundaries and leadership in his home, along with adequate consequences so that when people don't follow them, they don't get what they want of the situation. It's inspiring the confidence in his leadership. And yeah, these are basic steps, but once he gets good at these, he starts to get good at doing it in the other things in his life that he likes. And it pays off in the end. So this is a short one. It's easy. It's just a nice example of showing how you basically parent. Not just a girl, not just kids, it's everybody. So enjoy, guys. Catch you on the next episode. Cheers. I like that one. It was simple. Simple and easy. Oh, yeah, I know, Kriegler. Those N-bombs are just people talking about people dropping N-bombs. That's like everything, though. Everybody always can you believe? And they have to straw man the villain. All these Republicans are so blah, blah, blah about whatever, whatever. And I'm like, where? I don't see them. All these liberals are just wanting to drag queen your kids. And I'm like, where are they? I have learned the only thing, like for the Drag Queen Story Hour one, I have learned more about Drag Queen Story Hour from conservative pundits than I ever have from any liberal people. Liberal people just don't care or even notice. 66. So yeah, same as anything. Like the new one was like the identity theft. People would make like a fake tweet as Elon or as Bill Gates or something like that, and then they would screenshot it and send that out to a whole bunch of people, and then either delete their account or change it back to normal. And then everybody would spread that screenshot out, and then everybody's like, "Holy crap, they're stealing identity!" It's like, no, they're not. Like nobody ever seems to go in that screenshot. What's the name? They type in the name of the account. They see some random other thing that has nothing to do with it, or the account got banned in the first hour, and you're like, oh, so clearly that identity theft issue was sorting itself out. But because you got that one screenshot, it has to matter. Yeah, finally caught Ryan live, evasive like a Pokemon. Well, to be fair, I don't record these very often. Like I'm probably not going to do one for another month because this is going to be 5 MidsWatch episodes by the time it's done. Each one of these things is where I do all my post-production to it. And those will come out once a week. So in December, I'll probably do another one. In the meantime, the next one will probably be me doing some Chick Talks, which, by the way, oh boy, you guys got to see this. Where's my Chick Talk folder? I know I have it in here somewhere. To do Chick Talks. 174. 174 Chick Talks. I am so far behind on looking at those goofy bitches. I don't even know where to start. Oh, it's going to suck though. My computer blue screened to death a couple weeks ago, and I lost all of my templates and all my workflows. So for the MidsWatch and for the Chick Talks, I have to rebuild them from scratch. So the first ones are gonna no, that was from the previous one. I just haven't rebuilt an episode since then. Don't forget, because of the book, I've pre-recorded everything for the last 3 months. And if you guys notice, I had a video coming out every 2-3 days for 3 months straight. That's a lot of like work. But it got me to finish the book, and now I get to take a break and just, goof around with you guys. Anyways, this whole time I thought Mish was a 40-year-old white guy from America who just happened to have a government job in the Middle East. Oh, no, no, no. He is truly, truly Chad of Arabia. He's coming on this weekend, by the way. We're going to do a Red Morning together. It's going to be good with all this new, like, everybody's joining Islam. It's the coolest thing. It's like literally LGBTQ for like conservatives. It's like, I'm Islam today. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm binary. You're like, what the hell? What is all this? Why is my world so different than I remember it growing up? You guys are moving too fast. I'm feeling old. Guys, feeling old. Can you please stop doing weird shit? Because it makes me feel old. My hair is still colored. I don't need this. Islam's the new manosphere trend. Yeah, indeed. All right, so this next one, I'm going to like it actually because it talks about cheating. It's probably going to be one of the better episodes. I'm going to give it more of a clickbaity title when I put it out. This guy, I think he was one of the ones. Actually, it's fun fact. So the week that I joined the Red Pill, there's 4 of us. There was me. There was Bogey D6, an oil man, oil executive, pretty cool. There was Zach Small at the time. He called himself the Family Alpha or Hunter Drew, which you guys may recognize him from such glamorous shots as having Anthony Johnson sick that bear on him when he was wearing that giant bear suit. And this other guy here, Alpha Beta 49, he was the other one. And so it's neat when I see this one because I'm like, oh, dude, this would have been right around the same time I had to deal with a bunch of crap. So it's definitely got the nostalgia vibes, right? What the hell? You joke about it, but I matched with a 350-pound bi-Muslim girl on Bumble once. Jesus. It's crazy how many, like, unattractive things you can throw in there at once. I mean, in fairness, though, Mish, don't you guys have those big burqa, like a burqa? So if a girl's got a good set of shoulders on her, that should make it much easier to not notice the rest of her. Our future MD1, $10 super chat. That's 2 cuck articles, sir. Heartfelt fuck you. No. Could you do a walkthrough of the editing and styling of video? I'm trying to get a similar aesthetic. I mean, I can do it here. I already have a live stream on how to edit videos, which I'd say go check that out. But so for a MidsWatch, what I like to do is when I'm recording it, I think of certain triggers that I want to hit. First thing I need is a hook. And it doesn't matter if it's a good hook. It's just something, a 5-second saying of something that gives a guy a hint of what's coming in later episodes. And then an introduction to the MidsWatch. And because there's a whole lot of like bread and butter stuff to bring up, I don't like to tell a guy the entire history of the MidsWatch every episode. I'll pick like a certain part, like why it's called MidsWatch, what's the purpose of this stuff, maybe some simple concepts to get a guy up to speed so he doesn't feel like he's walking into something totally clueless. And then I keep it to 3 parts. The first part is reading the guy's field report. The second part is my thoughts from like a red pill perspective in hindsight after 7 years of extra stuff. And then go through the stuff that he received at the time, the notes he got at the time from guys like Jack or sometimes some of the other prolific guys on there. And then like a summary at the end. So once I got all that together, I think of the aesthetics. So the first aesthetic is I wanted to have a mixture between 1970s and 80s Hong Kong action, 1980s and 90s video game and computer, like internet stuff, and then 1990s and 2000s much music, which is like Canadian MTV. I remember they had this show, I can't remember what it was called, but it was at night, and what happens is the VJ would sit in here talking about this, that, and the other thing, and then every couple minutes a music video would start. And so I took those influences and put them together, and that was essentially it. And then during the 5-second intro where I do like the old music video, like, hey, this song by this artist is coming up now, this is where I kind of play around with like, let's try a new effect. Sometimes I keep it a consistent effect across. Sometimes I want to experiment with something new. I think at some point too, I would use like, I had some like old 1970s Russian animation I would throw in there, or Beyond the Mind's Eye, which is like a 90s CG, like a whole bunch of like just random nostalgic stuff from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Or a lot of it would be like kung fu stuff too. So yeah. And those are just all those same influences. The idea then is it pulls together a giant nostalgic vibe, but I don't like the vaporwave nostalgia everybody does now, where it's just AIM Instant Messenger, purple Miami Vice, that sort of thing, and like grid line patterns and vector drawings. I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of hackneyed and done. And it wasn't really what the 80s were like anyway. It's just what the 80s aesthetic is like. But I'm like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to add like that 1970s chic shit onto it. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be awesome. So that's how I try to get it. And then the whole idea with the voices, I try to make it more ASMR-y, kind of like a midnight radio show, you know? So that's really how you get a vibe, is that you have to take 10 or 11 influences of stuff that makes no sense and jam it together, which I like to call the Japanese animation technique, like Cowboy Bebop. You know what we need? A Western film noir with bounty hunters in space. And with a dog. And they're like, done. Surely Ryan's heard the good news about Rollo, or bad news depending on how you look at it. Well, I mean, probably. We talk a lot. I did notice though with his band, he's got like they're getting the full like makeup shit going on, so they're gonna go full like glam metal, which is gonna be pretty cool. But I know he was having some problems with his dog, so hopefully his dog hasn't passed, but I'll probably find out. Yeah. Make an appearance. Oh, I've heard about, yeah, we talked about the Dr. Phil one. I don't know. I said here what I said there. I'm like, and he's like, because I guess apparently the same crew that pushed out for him and Donovan and that before were like outrage brokers. And I guess Phil has had like his fuck it moment where he's like, I don't give a shit. And so Rollo seems like it's pretty sincere that he wants to turn more into Joe Rogan and less into Dr. Oz. And I'm like, well, you know, I wish you luck, sir. I just don't want to see him getting taken advantage of. So we'll have to see. Having said that, I probably won't watch it because I don't give a shit about Dr. Phil. But if it's good, I'm sure I'll see clips about it. I guess on the good side of things, at least for once, it's not Tate. You know? Bring me with them. Oh, dude, I don't know. Honestly, like, I'm conflicted on that kind of stuff. Yes, it would be nice. I like working with Rollo, and anything he's doing, if I can help, that's great. But I was talking with him about that when we did our episode last week on Chicks Can't Science, you know? Where I kept him off the channel for the longest time because like I wanted to make sure that any growth I got on this channel was not because I was dick riding him. I don't know why. I just don't like that idea. I like the idea that I need to know I can build it myself. And I kind of pushed that too far to the point that, like, dude, like, why am I not working with you more? We have such great content together. And because of some stupid pig-headed, it's like, I don't need nobody's help. I just avoided it. Where's my live stream? It's in here somewhere. I don't know. I could pull it up, but it's going to take me too hard to find. Yeah, the program's DaVinci Resolve, so that's probably where I go through it. But that's the thing with these choices. Like, I couldn't give you a tutorial on how I do these choices because a lot of times, first off, it's boring content. It's me sitting here, staring at a screen, thinking, going to download some stuff off the internet, and then add it to there, and then just look at it and see if I like it or not. It's mostly it. That's the one beauty about creating things for yourself, is that you don't need like a... Like, if I was a director directing other people, I need to articulate the vision, but in this, when I'm creating it myself, I can just create it, and then just kind of give it a visual once over, and if I like it, I like it. He also said he expects you and everyone else to betray him if he ever gets accused of stuff. No. What the hell? I don't even know what that means for betray him. But I mean, to be fair, he's not wrong. I can definitely see, like, look, I'm under no illusions. I've seen this happen in real time in my life when I don't tell the story much about when I got charged with espionage. What, you're a spy? I'm not a spy. That's the point. But I didn't know this for 6 months. I had like a Kafka-esque nightmare for like a year. And that's kind of what got me started on the red pill. And that's why I tell you guys I'm the first guy who's ever gotten red pilled. And it wasn't from a woman. And I remember this, like, for the last 10 years in my military career, I was basically fucking Captain Canada. Like, the perfect employee, the perfect student. I got top honors, certificates, and medals and awards fucking everywhere. They're just sitting on a shelf collecting dust right now for all the good they did. And then all it took was one accusation of something, which I didn't even know what it was. And, like, all the people that I thought of as, like, friends and coworkers all kind of turned on me. So I see where Rolo's coming from, but at the same time, that's, like, no. No, I don't think I'm going to do that because, like, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 40. I'm not 50, but I'm not 20. And I'm just, there's very few people that I find in life are sincere. I have some very, very good friends from the military and from corporate life that I still keep up with and talk to. I got some family members that are good. And I realize about 90% of the people I've known in my life have been those kind of people that Rolo's getting real dark about. And I'm just like, no, I know how rare it is to find somebody who's fairly sincere to deal with. Like, I don't really care. If Rolo ends up being Cosby, I'll still watch Leonard Part 6. I'll put it that way. What are they gonna do? Cancel me? 46. Fuck. 46 would be nice. I wouldn't mind. No, I'm not 46. What the fuck? Yes. Leonard Part 6, I'm one of the few people who like the movie. What can I say? I don't know. I guess it's just I like to separate the art from the person. I'd rather you guys just guess. Yeah, so no. I don't think that'll be an issue. The whole point, that's the one I don't get. It's like, why are people so fickle when it comes to public perception when you're like doing YouTube shit? I'm reading articles, so I have heard Rolo being Cosby. No, he was talking about on his live stream how apparently, like, if he ever got an accusation of something, that he'd probably lose everybody's support. And I'm like, I don't play that. One, because sincere people are hard to find. So I'm like, I'm not about to give them up if they're accused of something. Look, and the way I see it, if he's accused of something and it's criminal, he'll go to jail and he'll come back and then it's fine. If he's accused of something and it's fake, then why do I need to change my opinion of him? So at the same time, I don't really have to change anything. Although I don't see how. I hate to say it, but like, knowing what I know about him, he's kind of got the same problem I do. It's like, oh my God, I've just exposed him for what he is. He's exactly the person he tells himself. And now that he's past his Rockstar 20s, he's actually rather boring. I'm like, that's pretty much all you're going to find. But yeah. But then, yeah, what's the point of working on your own? Like, you're on the internet. I'm selling books on Amazon. Like, I don't have any masters, and I'm surprised people that do this are so worried about public perception that they change who they like and what they like. I'm like, dudes, if I had to give a shit about reputation like that, I would stay in corporate. It pays better if I'm going to deal with this bullshit. The whole point of coming here is that I don't get to deal with bullshit anymore, and I'm like blessed in that way, and I took the risk and I paid off. I'm like, I don't got time for this shit. Anyways, Billy, hopefully that was like a good enough answer for you. But yeah, with Future MD, the one thing you've really got, like, I'm assuming you're using DaVinci Resolve. You just gotta, and make sure you have the newest version, dude. Like, some of the new stuff they had on there. And also look up, there's a lot of preset effects you can use. Like, I have some that's, what are they called? The company I bought them from was called Raw. Temp clips. Where did I put them? Oh, they're on the new drive. Effects SD. And it's really neat. Like, when you see my Rule 0 or Red Morning, where I got like the 8-second countdown thing with like the British voice in the back end, stuff like that, or a lot of my LCD VCR special effects on there, getting that stuff and adding it to you always help. Ryan's blog entries tell a crazy story if you read them all at once. Yeah. And you know the worst part too? It's not even, like, a lot of people think that that story is exaggerated stuff. It's actually toned down from my real life, and that's kind of where I prefer it. I hate the idea of making things more important than they have to be, even though at the time it was like, dude, I would never wish that on anybody. If Anthony Johnson got that, even then I'd be like, dude, he doesn't deserve this. Anyways, enough moping about shit. We're going to talk about cheating and hoes and stuff. Any idea where I can get a copy of Daybang? Everywhere I go, it's out of print. I don't want to... Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure you could probably download it now. Like, I have my e-copy, which I've also got my copy of Sanction, which Amazon took down, so that's pretty cool. But in that case, I guess that's what you'll have to do. I was thinking about, like, just releasing it, but I don't like the idea of, like, even though Roosh took it down, like, it's not my IP. So, yeah. Plus, I don't want the chance of me having to be legally embroiled with Roosh. I'd like, oh, I don't want to be there for when he has to testify in court. Fuck that. I can't handle him testifying on live streams. I'm in corporate and barely have any grays. Yeah, it's funny. Total off topic here again. Never had, my girl and I, we like never had a gray hair on anything until COVID. And it looks like those grays have gone away now that COVID is gone. So it's almost like stress causes gray hair. Who would have thunk? Some chick at the bar trying to sucker me in for buying trinks for her and her friends. Her husband was 10 feet away. I must have beta tattooed on my forehead. Everybody has that. Girls just try things because it works so often, man. It's nothing to take personally. Finally drank Fireball over the weekend. I feel like a retard teenager. Oh, dude. Honestly, here, you want to know the most Canadian? Here, I'll do the episode, but I'm going to tell you the most Canadian thing ever. It's absolutely funny. When you think of what makes Canadians Canadians, and it's one of those things that you take for granted until you find out Americans have no idea what you're talking about. Go snowboarding on Whistler, or one of, like, every city in BC had its own mountain range. So everybody had their own ski hill. So everybody went skiing. Yeah, go snowboarding on the mountain. You buy a Mickey, another Canadian thing. That's, I think you guys call them fifths. They're the little hand-sized liquor bottles. A fifth of Fireball, and then just after every run, you take a couple swigs from the thing. Just drinking straight Fireball cinnamon whiskey. And this is like the Canadian thing. It's right up there with macaroni and cheese, samosas, and Molson Canadian beer, or Labatt Blue if you're old, or Pilsner if you're from the 70s. Yeah. Girl game, get him to buy me stuff and listen to my problems. Yeah, I can't fault him for it. I mean, it works so often. Like, if you found you did some dumb, evil shit like that and people let you, why would you stop? It's like, you need to stop begging guys for cash. It's like, why? Because they keep throwing cash at me. Fair enough, Amaranth. Like, I guarantee you now, if her brand grew, she's going to talk about fucking horrific fights with her husband or whatever every 2 fucking weeks on Twitch. I guarantee. Because that's what people are enforcing. It must not be strong. It didn't really get me drunk. I think it's like 35%, so it's not like full strength liquor or anything. Or 100, not 100, I think it's like 60 proof or something like that. But I mean, you have to drink more than a little bit to get drunk. But the idea was with just like the tingle of the booze and the tingle of the cinnamon, it keeps you warm while you're skiing. Not prepared, how some friends taking you aside, telling you they don't like how you talk to women, getting really emotional, all while the woman sipping her phone number under the table. Dude, there's no. Were you not here for the first two episodes? That's exactly what Buddy was said when the girl was like making fun of him for being awesome. He pulls out the website and his phone to prove he was right. I don't like the way you talk to women. And this is where fogging comes in. You're like, yeah, okay. And then just go back to whatever you were doing. Most of the time, these guys don't actually want you to change. They want you to acknowledge them. And so when you just acknowledge people, they'll shut the fuck up. And it's awesome. Yeah, and the girl's slipping her phone under the table. And you can brag about that later. Hey, dude, I feel real bad. That girl that I was talking to, you said I was too misogynistic with? Well, she wants me to go over to her place tonight and talk about it. Like, what do you think I should talk about? Maybe my feelings or how much I love women who shower every day or what? And then just laugh at him. Come back and just throw the condom in his face. Don't do that. Oh, dear God. Anyways, enough goofing around. I'm probably going to lose my voice if I keep this going too much longer. And this one's going to be a bit of a longer one. Anyways. Oh my God. He's cheating on his wife and now he wants to be a better man. Holy sweet jeez. Welcome to the MidsWatch, guys. It's Ryan here. This one's going to be a good... Actually, this is funny. I was just talking about this on a live stream when I was recording this one, which, you know, keep an eye on the channel, like, subscribe. Occasionally, I record these all live. There's a whole bunch of after stuff that goes on there. I leave them up for like a week or two, and then I release them as a Patreon reward for the guys that show up at the Patreon. It's a pretty cool like add-on for them where they can see like how the sausage is made, so it's always kind of neat. Anyway, this one is about... He calls it Overdread, but in reality, it's like a whole bunch of different concepts thrown around. It deals with the sexual market value and the connection between that and dread. It deals with people accepting the consequences of their decisions, not just men, but also women. And the idea of, you mean to tell me there's a red pill and blue pilled way to cheat? It's like, yes, there kind of is. That's why, and you always hear it so like autistically mentioned when you see like the red pill Jerry Springer stuff out there. It's like high value men should be allowed to cheat. It's like, it's not about a should. It's about ultimately the motivations for it and whether your fidelity is more important than your commitment. Which sounds weird, but we'll get into it. This one's from a guy, Alpha Beta 49. Fun fact, if you guys want to hear about the iceberg, when I joined the Married Red Pill, there was 4 of us that joined that week. There was me, there was a good friend of mine, Bogey D6, an oil executive, pretty slick. There was Zach Small, who at the time was calling himself Training the Brain, or you might recognize him as the Hunter Alpha. And this 4th guy, Alpha Beta 49. So it kind of gives me some nostalgia realizing as he's running through his stuff, it's like, dude, this would have been when I was running through mine too. It's like 7 years ago now, or 8 years almost. It seems like we've been talking a lot about dread lately. See my post history, blah, blah, blah. The TLDR of it is he had an affair. It gave him some built-in dread, which seemed to work well once he spelled it out. Unfortunately, that very nature of dread has made his wife extremely insecure, and she's going through an identity crisis to boot. So he decided to cheat on his wife a few years ago. You know, she was ignoring him in favor of the new baby, and he was the beta bitch who didn't know how to properly, you know, man up. When he was caught almost 3 years ago, he was assigned to the doghouse and a steady dose of groveling and paying for it. And it took me some courage after I swallowed the pill last October to help her understand her contribution to the affair. I didn't blame her. I don't cease to admit that cheating was not a smart choice, but ever since then, the quality and the quantity of sex has increased, and last month especially approached a level of awesomeness that dating had not been. Did have a major hiccup though last night. Aunt Flo was visiting, so she enthusiastically offered a blowjob. Her initiation, her enthusiasm, all good. Ran the gamut, started tender and sensitive, ended up face fucking her. Oh, how romantic. Fantastic. And then 15 seconds from finishing, she stops and checks to see if one of the kids is awake, which is the exact type of behavior he hates. He loses momentum. It's midnight. So he's like, yeah, you lost me. Let's just go to bed. No biggie. I had fun anyway. It was generally outcome independent. This zaps her hamster wheel, and the poor thing can't even keep up. She starts freaking out and worrying that she didn't satisfy him and that he'll cheat in the morning. Kept repeating the question, am I the best you've ever had? She's crying. She's shaking. She's like, holy cow, where did this all come from? Turns out she'd felt obligated to have sex with him for the mate retention. While she enjoys it once we get into it, her main motivation is to keep him happy. There seems to be little raw attraction. And on top of that, she's out of shape, but starting a training business soon, and the gym is full of full-length mirrors. So this former hot, confident college athlete is confronted with her lack of fitness and attractiveness due to focusing on everybody else and not taking care of herself. So his analysis, she uses the affair to justify her mood, where she treats the kids poorly, how she doesn't get anything done some days. It's starting to sound like a pity party, even though I'm sure she's genuinely hurting. I wish she would found the red pill and get motivated herself. There's obviously a huge comfort test here, but providing pure comfort, I'll never cheat on you again, baby. I'll always be faithful. You're the love of my life, etc., 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 will only serve to make her comfortable and encourage apathy. I don't know yet how to balance alpha or desire with beta and comfort. The embedded, am I the best you've ever had shit tests, he's chosen not to answer. Don't know if that's the best idea. He should have told her flat out, I cheated because we weren't having sex, and then she added sex to her weekly checklists. I don't want duty sex, I want genuine desire, and telling her so bluntly was a giant attraction negotiation, and she felt she had no options. She needs to get her life together. Smaller and smaller things are overwhelming her, which is in stark contrast to my improvement, where it's going the opposite direction. I hate that she sees me as a chore, and gosh, that's a disgusting, worthless feeling. The answer to all this, lead my family, take charge of her diet, make sure the schedule allows time for her to work out, and become more attractive to increase attraction. This is my opinion. I'd like to hear from you guys. It's a bit difficult, as I have to take care of her, and I'm just now getting used to taking care of myself. So, postscripts, I'm in the middle of this. I'll post another field report when the dust settles. A couple thoughts before we get on this one. So, I told you in the very beginning of the episode, there's a difference between red pill and blue pill cheating? It's like, yes, there is. And this is the example. Blue pill cheating is validation. His wife wasn't sleeping with him, and so the first girl that gave him a whiff, he took it because he wanted to feel like, remember the couple episodes back where I talked about the guy who based his whole net worth on whether his wife was having sex with him or not? It's kind of that, but not as extreme. And then when you get caught, that first off, the term caught is essentially a blue pill term. It means that she is the judge, and she gets to judge you as a bad person, and hence you got caught cheating in front of the referee. And then a lot of groveling will come, a lot of forgiveness, basically the same way you throw yourself on the funeral pyre, oh, please forgive me, Jesus. And it's not Jesus, it's just Karen. Red pill, on the other hand, is just understanding that you have things that you want in your life. You want a healthy sex life. And if your wife is not giving it to you, you'll get it elsewhere. It doesn't mean you love your wife any less. It doesn't mean you're going to be any less of a father or any of that stuff. But you're not doing it for validation. You're literally just scratching an itch. It's like, oh, she gets first crack at my libido, not sole custody. And if you get caught, although the term isn't really accurate, there's no real term for it yet in the space, but anyways, once she discovers your infidelity, it's not apologetic. It's more, the answer is more like, what did you think was going to happen? And so she can make the decision. She's like, okay, she can leave over that if she wants to. That's her choice. You can't tell her what to think. But more often than not, you're establishing that, yeah, it's just sex and you weren't giving it. And that's totally up to you. It's your decision. You don't have to. But then I'm going to get laid. Doesn't matter. And funny enough, that ends up being an attractive quality. That's like pre-selection. It's girls, because she doesn't lose her commitment, but she's losing the tingles. It's a really weird thing, and I'm not going to suggest it as like a general relationship advice. Cheat on your girl and then unapologetically tell her to don't worry about it. It's like, it's not how it works. But, so it goes the two different ways. Now, and you know what? Instead of my thoughts, I'm going to get into Jack's, because I think he and I are going to be remarkably consistent on our thing here. Yeah, he starts off. Cheating increases dread without a corresponding increase in sexual market value. And I believe this is the root of your problem. Your previous posts have indicated you're still struggling on accomplishing a lot of the goals in your life outside your marriage. besides some enhanced muscle definition, from going to the gym. I'm sure you bought a few articles of clothing, but are you materially better than you were a year ago? Or to ask this another way, have you objectively increased your value since swallowing the red pill? The answer, in my opinion, is probably not. Your wife is feeling something like dread level 8 out of 10, but your SMV is still stationary at a 6. Enough for your wife to be terrified you'll cheat on her again, but not so much for her to accept this as a possible outcome if she doesn't keep her high value man happy. A few years ago, I was watching The Sopranos with my wife on DVD, and after one of those episodes, highlighted the anguish Carmela feels because she has to look the other way when it comes to Toadie's comeres, which I think is like the mistresses. My wife said to me, "I don't worry about you cheating on me. I do sometimes wonder if you'll ever tell me if you're just going to start seeing other women, because I think I would basically just have to accept it." And it kind of caught me out of the blue, but I thought about it later. My wife has been pretty damn good, and she knows it, and she does her best to keep it that way. She also knows it's possible that, despite her doing her best, my value is high enough as a man that her best may not be good enough for me. And this is the headspace where you need to get your wife. Acceptance. She's married to a high value man. She's doing everything she can to make you happy. Will he cheat? Hopefully not. Can she do anything about it? Well, she's already doing what she can. So why agonize over this? And he's like, so your idea of just leading the family, it's part of the answer. Like I said, you've got a marriage at dread level 8, but your SMV is 6, and your wife is probably something like a 4 or 5 herself. What you're suggesting is investing your time and effort in getting her SMV to a 6. If she drops 20 pounds, she may feel better about herself, less freaked out about you having another affair, because she'll feel better about her odds at finding somebody better in the inevitable divorce that would happen if you cheated again. Acceptance of this idea will probably not manifest as her getting dripping wet to fuck her 6th husband. To clarify, I'm not suggesting you want her to stay as a fat ass, but if she increases her SMV and you don't, that will reduce the dread, given there's no longer going to be the disparity between how attractive you two are, but she'll just go from feeling like she has to fuck you out of obligation to not feeling that way anymore. She'll nag you less, and she'll also fuck you less. Now, had you not cheated, you could have organically increased your sexual market value and had a much less confrontational evolution of your marriage than what you're experiencing now. Other guys hit the gym, drop some extra weight, marriage goes from something like dread level 1 to 3, enough to get his wife's attention, but not something that's going to cause her to freak out and go nuts over the comfort tests and cry after a blowjob. Unfortunately, you don't have that luxury. So yeah, your cheating just turned up the difficulty level in your marriage from hard to ultra violence. It's a Doom reference, I think. The bigger gap in the value between you and your wife, the more she'll freak out because you're in a marriage that has very little tolerance for additional dread caused by the sexual attraction disparities. But if you help her increase hers at the expense of your own, then she won't even give you the duty sex that you're getting somewhat bored with. So you pretty much need to thread the needle here. Help her increase her value enough so she stops freaking out about your cheating, but increase your own so that she replaces that obligation to fuck you with an actual desire to fuck you. And it's funny because he comes back with it and he's like, not gonna lie, it's probably the most discouraging thing I've read on this site. And he's like, no, the more discouraging thing you've read on this site is this. I bet you couldn't get divorced now even if you tried. And I'm not saying that to be a dick, but seriously, just try to picture you trying to have that conversation with your wife right now. Even if you tried to be as magnanimous as possible and say, look, I made too many mistakes, I hurt everybody, and this is the better way stuff, your wife would become hysterical. Absolutely goddamned hysterical. She'd have a full-blown meltdown, alternate between hating you and blaming herself. She'd call her parents. Her parents might even call you. You'd have to start making all sorts of awkward decisions starting the same night. Are you two really going to sleep in the same bed after you just dropped the D-bomb on her? You'll cave. I guarantee you'll cave. You'll feel so shitty about everything and how bad you're making your wife feel and witness your kids being ripped apart firsthand, and all you'll have to say is, okay, let's get divorced, and this will all get fixed. Well, sort of. Except for like your affairs, the damage will have been done. Your wife is operating with an anxiety level that's permanently affixed at that dread level of 8. Now she'll be operating at 10, 11? She's just going to be nuts. She'll even be more terrified of cheating and divorce because you've cheated and you've tried to get divorced. And then you'll come back here talking about how you've gone half cocked on yet another thing in your life and how you seem to be paying the price for it over and over and over again. It's like, look, even though I said all the above would be discouraging, it doesn't have to be because you didn't actually do this kind of stuff yet. I was just outlining how I could very easily see this sequence of events happening in your life, and I'm urging you, slow the fuck down. Yes, threading the needle is hard, but knowing you, it's something that you gotta commit to, because if it fails, you'll at least have the mental fortitude to follow through on the next natural step, which is divorce. Because, for perhaps one of the few times in your life, you'll be able to say to yourself, well, I fucked up, but I really did do everything I could to fix it. It just wasn't good enough, and then you can be okay with that. So you know, with 100% certainty, your marriage had too much scar tissue to ever heal in the way that you and your wife wanted. Which means you can deal with the short-term pain everybody feels with a divorce because you're confident it is in everybody's best interest and you didn't just hear some random asshole on the internet tell you that it was. So when you say you need to make a decision, it's like you don't. That was the whole point of Imagine Suggesting Divorce mental exercise. Thread the needle. It's the only decision you can make right now. It's going to be hard. It's going to be easy to get discouraged and pity yourself for bad decisions you made, blah, 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 blah. It's a Herculean task. But it may not be impossible. It's only impossible in that not attempting it, it's a certainty. Personally, I think it's possible. When you deconstruct the macro steps needed to make this happen, it's pretty much a list that includes 3 things. Continue to improve, acting more responsible and achievement-oriented, success and then the beta stuff in your life. Accomplish some major macro goals in your life, like advancing in your career. Provide a family structure that enables success for everybody, not just you. It's up to your wife to decide whether she wants to succeed or not, and that's it. That's the list. That's all what threading the needle really looks like. Can you do that? It's up to you. I mean, at least in failure, you know that there's nothing you can do about it, right? Now, I'll cut it off here because he goes in again, he starts doing some pity party stuff, and then Jack kind of chimes in, and I could talk about this for like an hour, but it's essentially just rehashing the same points. So yeah, sometimes you come from that blue pill cheating position. How is it that you can start establishing yourself as the dominant authority in your house when you have that initial betrayal of trust that's something hard to get past? And the answer to that is your wife just has to decide to get on board with it. And you'd have to decide, yes, you feel bad. Yes, it was a fuck up, but what else can I do? And that's all you can do is go through like with a better choice of life. And this comes up too because a lot happens when guys accept that maybe they shouldn't have cheated in this case, and then the wife starts to weaponize that. As soon as anything you do goes against it, she feels any anxiety, she brings up the cheating like a weapon in hopes that you'll back down and submit. And it's actually come up before. I don't know if there's going to be a field report on the MidsWatch for it, but I think Wine More Please, which is another guy who's been around for forever, brought up a really good point. He's like, look, you chose to forgive me, and we chose to move on from this. So I cannot be sitting here constantly having this thrown against me like a weapon every time we're going to get stuff done. So you need to make a choice. Either you're going to forgive me and we're going to move forward, or you're not going to forgive me and we need to go the other direction. But I need you to make your choice. And that's the thing. It's like, it's her choice to make. But she doesn't get to say she forgives you and then use it as a weapon. And then that way, even through your betrayal, you can at least establish some semblance of trust. Like the idea thing there is, I get it. Anxiety, dread, worried about me cheating. If I cheat again, it's likely over. That's the ground rules. Great, I can work with that. At the same time, you try to establish like, oh, you're just some cheating asshole as a way of like making you submit to the girl. You're like, no. That's not how this is working. I know it's weird too because I bring up the idea of real remorse versus imitation Naugahyde remorse often. And it kind of goes against that where... and if you read the article, it's like a checklist of things you can go through to see if when somebody's cheated on you, do they actually feel bad that they did it or just feel bad that they got caught? And it's like, well, aren't you acting like the guy who feels bad that you got caught? And I'm like, technically, yes, but luckily you're not a woman. And that's why it doesn't apply to you. For in your case, the sorry isn't words. The sorry is not letting her berate you with it. The sorry is you by not doing it again and fixing what the issues were. That's your sorry. And that's why you tell guys, don't apologize. Apologies are cheap. Send an expensive signal on there. Now, in his case, this all ended up working out well. And one thing I will say, too, is it's good that he had the self-awareness to recognize it. Because for a lot of guys, what they would notice is they cheated, and all of a sudden their wife is having sex with them more. And it's like hotter sex, and it's great. And they think, that's great. Everything works out well. What they don't realize is what they're getting there isn't desire, it's hysteric bonding, which is like a fight or flight response from women. The idea that their only sexuality is their only weapon or their only tool. And so when she's in a position where she's worried about losing her husband's more attractive than her husband cheated, their response has become sexually more ravenous. But I mean, it's not. When you say genuine desire, I think guys say they want their desire to be a choice, like because I'm horny and I think he's hot, which isn't really how desire works for women. So you can't really hold them to that standard. Women have sex for all kinds of reasons. Again, I've talked about it before. David Buss and Cindy Minson's Why Women Have Sex. There's like 800 reasons why women have sex written in that book. And being horny is like the 752nd one. Turns out that mate retention, revenge, hysteric bonding, all these other reasons. And I think when a guy reframes that by understanding that women's reasons for having sex are so much larger and more varied, that they really kind of get over the reasons. Like when I say don't care got laid, there's some validity to it, right? Sometimes she just sleeps with you because you have a business trip tomorrow and she wants to make sure you leave with your balls empty so you don't get any bright ideas when you're sitting there in Vegas talking with the clients about your new booze line or whatever, you know? Is that genuine desire? Well, no, she's just doing it to keep me loyal. Yeah, heaven forbid. Is it enthusiastic? Oh, yeah, she did rock my world. I'm like, maybe just be happy with that. Because this hysteric bonding, again, it's a good thing. She wants to keep you happy. But at the same time, you like this woman, you love this woman, and she's got like a spiral of anxiety. And in this case, it's not the sex he wants to fix there, it's the anxiety. But you want to do it in such a way that doesn't just remove any desire. Because you'd be surprised how many guys came from a position of being in hysteric bonding and think the way to fix that situation is to turn their bedroom into a dead bedroom. And it's like, no, man, you got to thread that needle. And that's the idea, is replacing that anxiety over losing you with a love and admiration and respect for keeping you, with a little bit of the anxiety of possibly losing you. And then once you get these things all together, and where does the line for you? I mean, that depends. Every guy is going to have a different level of comfort. Every girl is going to have a different threshold for anxiety. Every girl is going to have like a different motivation to sleep with you. Like if your girlfriend is 23, she's going to be sleeping you for different reasons than when she's 29, than when she's 35, than when she's 45. So don't worry too much about genuine desire, because for a woman, genuine desire has 15 different meanings, of which only one of them are the reason that you have sex. But yeah, don't worry about it. Plus, if you're at some dinner party and that single friend from her work starts to flirt with you, and you get home and your wife starts to blow you right there in the entranceway, it's genuine enough. Even if it is just to make sure that that redhead from work's a bitch and don't ever forget what you got at home. I can live with that. You need to learn it too. So that's all I got for you guys. I think I've talked about blowjobs enough for one day. I'm going to catch you on the next episode. Cheers. All right. Let me do the last. What are we on now? 65. Yeah, it's neat. That's one of the few ones I know works out pretty well in the end. He eventually became, if I'm not mistaken, an ambulance driver or an EMT, one of those kind of jobs. So he does pretty well, saves a bunch of lives. He's like the firefighter. Girl was loving it. They still bring up the cheating, but he kind of laughs it off at this point. He's like, whatever. Yeah. To be honest, only had a couple chicks who smelled bad, so yes, women smell nice. Oh, I hope so. Coach, even when she empties my balls, I still think about other women. Am I broken? It's like, no, I said that's what she's doing it for. I didn't say it worked. I just said that's what they're trying to do. And in fairness, I guarantee you, Mish, you act a lot differently if you've been laid yesterday versus if you were laid 2 weeks ago. Guarantee it. It has an effect. It's time for electric Legos. Oh, that's right. What's the time for that one? 12:30, I said, right? Yeah, so I'm not going to do another episode today. But there's okay, it turns out there's 64 more left, but I'm not doing all 64. There's a whole bunch in here that I had to can. I think it's closer to 20. So the series is still going to go strong. I've got all my edits in here, so I can start making some videos. Now that we're on the Christmas, I put away the Hawaiian shirts and I brought out the cardigan, so it should be fun. It's 5 of them right there. I guess we'll do this in a little bit. I got nothing else. I'm going to stop after this, go make some lunch, and then we're going to go play some electronic Legos. I've set up a raid. I have a raid on this thing, so it'll bring you straight to the other channel. If you're new to the Digital Rian channel and you like the ASMR, just hanging out and vibes and talking about this stuff casually, that's the whole reason for the second channel, by the way. It's red pill, but it's not so autistically in your face. It's just like, you know, goofing around, Minecraft, let's stream. T-Rex Army. We got a new contest and some merch to talk about anyway, so it's kind of neat. It's more so just like general conversation, because I can't really take you guys to the bar on a live stream every couple days. That's way too much drinking. But it's like, I don't know, trying to get that kind of vibe to it. Anyway, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, all that stuff for the live streams. Hopefully, future MD, I've given you some inspiration on the vibes and the aesthetic you want for your new videos. Yeah, it would be expensive there. Well, it's not that. I would just learn to make hooch outside in the radiator. Yeah, I remember that. Like, you guys have to buy your alcohol from inside the commercial districts. It's like $250 a bottle of like cheap vodka or whatever. But I know there's guys that are smuggling booze from the Dows over from Europe down there. So all I got to do is head to the dockyards, look for that one fisherman who's walking around with a bunch of cases, a jingly jangly cases. Make your own beer now, cheaper. It's funny too, because up here in North America, Mish, it's actually not cheaper to make your own beer. It's cheaper to buy beer, and so the people that make it are just because they like the idea of making it themselves. But yeah, it always ends up costing more. All right, glad I got this live. Got to, yeah. And so for those who are watching this after the fact, it's going to be up for like a week or two, and then I'm going to take it down. It's going to be put in. There's a MidsWatch playlist that's all the recordings for you to watch on Patreon. It's in the playlist, right in the pin on the top. And I just kind of like it as a little reward, right? Yeah, I'm going to let you go now. All right, let me get my stuff done. I'll see you guys in like 15 minutes over on Minecraft Central. Yay.